See, how it goes is
API request has been sent, the application will send back a response. The response will be sent back to the customer app, usually in a JSON or XML form. Format. Patch also updates information on the application. The difference is put will replace the information and patch will modify the information. And of course, delete will delete the information. Once the API request has been sent, the application will send back a response.
I can say API response. That's pointless to say. What is he?
The response will be sent back to the customer app, usually in a JSON or XML format.
Application will send back a response, usually as a JSON or XML. XML. Swear to God, I hate this goddamn fucking keyboard.
So,
MacBook Airs have the shittiest fucking keyboards. It's like trying to type on tissue paper.
A very basic, high-level overview of what APIs are and how they work.
Okay.
To get a better understanding of this, let's use something a bit more relatable. Instead of this generically named app here on the right, this is now a weather app with a huge network of weather stations set up all around the world.
Go on.
And our custom app is now a mobile app. Now, for most of us, building a worldwide network of weather stations and compiling all of that information is nearly impossible. But this is the beauty of APIs. Anyone can build a mobile app and then use APIs to request the data from an already existing weather application. Let's see how this could work. Our mobile app sends an API GET request to the weather application. Here is an example of an API request using the Open Weather Map API. As you can see,
See, I've used them before. I don't. I'll use it, and technically that's it. I've used it. I know I've used it. But I'm not putting vocabulary terms into my head when I'm doing it. So I make my way back around to talking about it in another context, and I'm like, I've forgotten what we're even talking about. Where's like the first instance? Thanks for not numbering the instances. Okay, 290. Here we go, 136. Let's go 136. It's like there's just so much stuff that yeah, I can only choke. I don't know. I'm not a fucking Okay, that's very cursory. One 72. Like it's insane. It is insane. Just to have like a decent, just to have like the ability to have gainful employment where you're actually like, you know, not just wage slavery. You have to become so fucking specialized in something. It's fucking insane. And it's like, if you try doing that and it doesn't work out and you're not good at it and you can't figure it out, well, then you're just fucked. Then you're just fucked at that point, you know? You know, never mind wanting to be in something that you actually care about in the first place. That ship is a long time ago sailed. It is so not about that. You're lucky if you can even be in something you don't care about, just because it's so fucking specialized at this point. Because otherwise, what are you going to do? Do you get any reward? Am I getting any reward out of this? Other than money, hopefully, one day. I'm not getting any personal reward. This shit is fucking torture to me. Like, this is not fun. This is not, I mean, it doesn't interest me at all. So it's like, why am I doing it then? Well, because in order to have any kind of real job, you gotta have some crazy amount of fucking specialization. Otherwise, they just put you in a room somewhere for 8 hours a day. And then you're stuck in a room somewhere. Not that that's not what I'm doing right now, but in that instance, you don't get any bonus reward out of it. You don't get any extra money. But then you don't really get any chance to savor the fruits of your labor when you become this specialized. Because you're just always just going to be in this. Just like, do I want to be a poor slave or a rich slave? It would just be nice to have any kind of life balance. Or feeling that I've accomplished anything that, like, the modern economy cares about. Agree to do this thing. Agree to learn this shit. I mean, this is insane. This is fucking insane. Is this not insane? Something is telling me this is absolutely fucking insane. Anyways. Doobie doobie dee. So JavaScript just comes with it, so you don't have to do anything. So that's not what I'm talking about. I want to see an instance where I actually have to go get the thing. Like, oh, I'll do anything. I'm good. I can do it. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I'll do it. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you can trust me. I want to show you how good I am. I'll do it. Yeah. Okay, just sit in this desk here. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm putting in the effort. Of course, yeah. You can count on me. Yep. Oh, well, I don't really understand, but anyway, yeah, I just study harder. I'm a good guy. I'll just keep going. Well, fuck, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's my fault. Well, I'm a good guy. I'll just keep going. I can do it. Well, no, that really doesn't make sense. What happened? I don't get it. What the fuck? I've been studying longer than anybody else here. I don't get it. You better get it right, slave. Well, okay, I'll just try harder. Everything's about trying harder. Dreams can come true. Just keep trying harder. Yeah. Somehow a magical thing will happen and I'll just start getting it. Yeah, you just gotta believe in that. Yeah, we're smart. Human beings are so intelligent. Blah. I'll try harder. Well, fuck, I got another F. Hahaha, it's gonna suck not to get this done. And then it's like, you go from being good faith guy, hopeful, optimistic guy to nothing has worked out. Now all of society, like, you know, now you're a bad guy. You tried to be a good guy. But shit is just a little too fucking complicated. And, since you couldn't get on that train, I don't know. You're just supposed to be able to just hold all that shit together and not lose your mind. Or at least be able to at least be able to accomplish it and do it. You know, like all the inspiring quotes say, "Oh, it's so magical." You know, it's really more like you're just being cornered into doing some totally arbitrary, super particular thing, because there's literally no other option except homelessness. This doesn't say it. Okay. Okay. That doesn't say it. 183, 219. I think this comes with it already also. How to get an API. I don't know. Let me see.
It's a simple URL. Already existing app. Here is an example of an API request. Using the Open Weather Map API.
Get a use API. Use API in JavaScript. Hello, I never became a mother. Hello friends. Hello friends.
Hey, how's it going guys? My name is Dom and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the fetch API and async await to call APIs in JavaScript, alright? So the reason for today's video is because I want to show you how I typically call my APIs from the front end and of course doing it in a modern way using async await, alright? So this right here is going to be the test API for today's video. I developed it for myself, or I developed it for this video, and it's going to be a simple API containing a list of users and the country that they belong to. So, as an example right here, localhost at port 3000 /users, then / the username / country is going to give you the username decodes country information, so myself, right? So if I send this across here, we can see we get a 200 OK, and it says my country is Australia, my internet code or shortened code is going to be AU, and the capital is going to be Canberra. So a very simple API here, which is also going to return a 404 if the username cannot be found. As an example, if I say something like apple.juice here, sends it across, we get 404 not found for that user. So we're going to be demonstrating the checking of status codes and of course handling that kind of thing. But this middle part here is going to be the only interactive or dynamic part of this API. So putting it back to decode, and of course we get that response back once again. So going inside the going inside the browser right here is this user interface. So a very simple UI built using HTML with an input field and a retrieve button. So as an example, if you pass through decode here, press retrieve, we of course want to show the user that this person D code is from Australia. Okay, so I'm not going to be showing you the code for the API in today's video because in many situations for yourself, you either don't care about the code for the API or...
Okay, I don't understand anything he's saying.
Current location in stuff. You might have location of the web.
I'm a nerd. Ha ha ha. Look at me.
JavaScript in the browser is the fundamental building block of the examples I'm building right now. The second project was really a project. It used
Look how fast I
to
talk.
load a CSV file, tabular data, world average temperatures from 1880 to present, and graph them using a JavaScript library called chart.js. But what you haven't seen, what I haven't done yet, is find some data that's external. It's not a local file, it's not an image on my hard drive or a CSV file. It's something that I'm getting from an external API. What do I even mean by an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. Yes, it sounds very important, but it's really a little technical jargon for something quite simple. It is the term refers to two applications talking to each other, two computer programs sending information.
Okay, so far so
So
good.
if I'm the designer of an application and I want
Got
other
it.
people who are programming stuff to be able to talk to my application, I will create an interface, a set of conventions, a protocol by which other applications could talk to my application. And what I might want to do with my application is serve up data. For example, maybe I'm a newspaper and I want to let other applications have access to all the news articles over time. Or I am an image database and I want to let other applications have access to images in my database. There are a lot of pieces of this puzzle for communicating with an API. You might have to authenticate with some kind of security stuff. You might have a limited number of requests you can make from the API. You might have to provide a certain amount of parameters to your request so you can get the right data back. But for the purpose of this project, design this project to start in a really simple place. Remember that fetch function, our building block? All we need is the URL address of the API. We put that in the fetch function, we call the fetch function, and back comes the data.
Yay.
The API that I'm used to demonstrate this is at a website called whereiss.at. It's an API that gives you back the current location in latitude
Why
and
did they
longitude
say it
of
that
the
way?
International Space Station. It actually gives you a lot of other
Where the
information
ISS
besides
at?
just the latitude and
They say
longitude.
like ghetto?
Altitude, the velocity, the visibility, what time it is, where the sun
Where
is,
that?
all sorts of stuff.
Where
I'm
that,
gonna do
yo?
just one thing.
Where that
I'm gonna get the
ISS
latitude
at?
and longitude, display it on the web
Cause-
page. Then I also want to plot that point on a map. So to do that, I'm also going to use the leaflet.js library. It's an open source mapping library where all of the map images are Creative Commons licensed. But you could also look into using other mapping libraries like Google Maps or Mapbox and try experimenting with one of those as well.
Okay.
But before we can do any of this, before we can dig into this project, you and me, we've got to have a talk. We've got to talk about JSON, JSON, or JavaScript Object Notation. The good news, if you're here already, you're probably familiar with someone with JavaScript. After all, it's kind of a requirement.
Dude, can you tone it
in this
down
video
just a
series
bit?
already. It's fine if you're a beginner, and I have other resources for people who are just learning JavaScript to kind of get up to speed. But right here, right now, you should be familiar with the basic idea of JavaScript. And you've hopefully then maybe written some code like this. Like maybe you wrote some code once that said, let pause, like I'm going to create a variable like pause for position. It's going to have open curly bracket, close curly bracket, maybe a semicolon. And then I'm going to put two properties inside of this JavaScript object literal, like lat for latitude, colon, and LO.
I know what JSON
5.
is.
And here, I have a JavaScript object. HTML file here, and I'm just gonna, with a little script tag in the body, and I'm gonna just write let pause, I'm gonna put this exact code in here, let pause equals latitude, what did I pick, negative total.log pause. So if I go over these, quite simple, written into, there are to code text box and open curly brackets. So latitude would have quotes around it, longitude would have actually be the contents of a JSON file, numbers with the keys, a list of things. There could be a property that's another object with several other properties which has an array in it. This could be a nested tree structure. Basics here. I want to reach out to an external API, ask for some data. That data will come as in JSON format. I want to extract the values of certain properties and do something with them. And the where the ISS add API is a really nice place for us to start.
So, basically what I'm trying to do, I have a JSON. All I'm doing is housing on my the only thing I'm trying to do here is create a server, either an Express server or a Node.js server, house my JSON on there, and do what he just said. Bring it back, make requests to it, and then populate some HTML. That's it. I'm not doing anything complicated.
So here I am at the where the ISS.at website is. Hopefully this website still exists whenever you're watching this video. This is not an official International Space Station API, whatever that might be. This is created and maintained by Bill Shupp, and thank you so much for the work in building out this website and API. And I want to build essentially what is the same.
I always like to do this when they talk. Like, I'm so smart. I need my shoulders to be up high and wiggly. I'm so smart.
As what's on the homepage of this website. Something that shows a map and shows where the International Space Station is. I'm going to make
so
a simpler
fidgety
version of
and
what's here, but you can get some ideas of how you
over-caffeinated.
might make yours a little fancier with some additional features. So the first
And I'm
thing you
wearing
always want to
plaid.
do if you're working with an API
And I
is
have
try to
glasses.
find the documentation for that API itself. And on this website, I can find it by looking right down here.
I'm playing
and
the
finding
smart
this
guy
link,
thing.
API. I am going to click that. And now here I am, I'm at the Where the ISS at REST API documentation. In a future video, I'll talk about what that REST API means. And in fact, I have a project that's going to come in this playlist. What is the authentication required? Really good stuff required, which is like in your the lib video request. And then points describe APIs will have different endpoints. And
I just want to see like how you plug the API into the JavaScript.
Paste it into the browser because the satellite and if I know the ID of a given satellite, I can I have that in terms of this exactly looks like data that parses and gives syntax
I'll never get around to that, I don't think.
thing anymore. And I'm going to use the fetch function. So I want to just start by writing an async function called getData.
That's right. Fetch and async. Let me try looking for that. Fetch. Here we go. 229. Okay. Where did my other JavaScript go? Two 30, 31. Oh, okay. And he did a, I don't know what that is. Okay.
That way I can just use the await keywords right from the outset. Then I always forget to say function. And let's call this get ISS. And then I'm going to say const response equals await fetch. And then what I want to fetch? That particular URL.
There's only one instance of fetch. Okay, so it gives you a URL that you fetch in your JavaScript, or in your, well, he's in his JavaScript. Okay.
But I don't love this. I think it would make much more sense for me to just store.
Is there no wait? Okay.
Store in a kind of global variable the URL to the API, and maybe I might even want to call that API URL or ISS API URL or something like that, and then I can just put it in here in the fetch function itself. So if you recall, when you get data back from the fetch function, it comes as a stream, and you have to package it up in the format that you want. We've done it with images as a blob. We've done it with text, CSV data as text. And now it is time for us to say data equals await response dot JSON. We want to convert that response into JSON.
And this is like what I did over here. Hold on. Where the fuck is my code? That was like what I did. Here. Just be a mailman. Drive around a little truck. Of course, if I became a mailman, suddenly the only thing on the news would be how all mailmen are not going to be around anymore. Suddenly there would be a new invention talking about, oh, this is the end of mail carriers. Something like that. It doesn't matter what thing I choose. It's if I decided to become a pilot, they would suddenly say, oh, this is the end of pilots. It literally doesn't matter. If I became a teacher, if I became a homeless shelter overseer person, they would be like, this is the end of homeless people. Because we're just gonna kill them. 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 He's talking about this, converting it to JSON. There's something I did that did that, but I can't remember now. Fetch, yeah, this part right here. See? I'm fetching this in my JS. Just like he's fetching this, which is an API, but I'm fetching just a piece of JSON directly. And then I'm resolving it into JSON, just like he's doing this. Except I'm not fetching an API. No, I'm trying to what eventually will happen is that this fetch right here, this fetch, which is just fetching a local file. I swear to fucking God. Alright. It's fetching a local file, which is a JSON file, which is fine. But eventually, once I finish doing this server here, trying to think. I mean, because this is Express. What's really going to happen is we're not even going to be doing this from JavaScript. We're going to be fetching it inside this server instead. I think this server is going to be fetching it. And then we're going to be fetching from the JS. We're going to be fetching the server as if you would an API. And we're going to be fetching the server and asking it, but then it's going to be giving us JSON, so I'm kind of confused. Why would we want the server to have JSON? We want the server to house the JSON? Is that what we're saying? Yeah, I think so. We want the server to house the JSON. So instead of calling for the JSON, this server.js is an application. As an application, it holds on to the JSON. And then what we're going to be doing from the front end, from the JavaScript, is making some kind of request to this server to not only give us the JSON data, but to, like render it for us based on certain parameters that we feed it, which are the inputs of the search bar.
I'm going to say console.log data, and then I'm just going to say, I'm going to call the function get data when the page.
Okay, I don't need to know this anymore. Let's go back to what I was doing.
As you can see, it's a simple URL. This URL contains some fields. One field is where the app would enter the city, and the other field is something called an API key.
Go work for the fucking post office. Go postal, literally. Huh. It's almost like the money system is a form of slavery.
An API key is usually required so the application can keep track of the number of
It's almost that way.
requests sent and also make sure that you're not spamming them. Once the application receives this request, it will respond with the requested data. Here is a small snippet of one of the responses. This is in JSON format, which is something we'll look at closer in another video. We can see different names and values here. We get the actual temp, what the temp feels like, humidity, etc. Now we have this, we can program our mobile app to take this information and display it in a nice, pretty user interface. And I'm sure you can guess,
HTTP GET. I'm using HTTP GET. Oh, hold on. Show me that again. Yeah, it's not HTTP. It is GET, but it's not. So I'm using the GET from my server here, app.get. So what is it getting it? What is it getting, and where is it getting it from? It's getting it from the local. Now, what the hell has happened? Requires that. Cannot find model HTML. Site. If this server.js is here, that means I need to go into site. Well, let me try this then. What about this? Oh.
with the requested data. Here is a small snippet of one of the responses. This is in JSON format, which is something we'll look at closer in another video. We can see different names and values here. We get the actual temp, what the temp feels like, humidity, etc. Now we have this, we can program our mobile app to take this information and display it in a nice, pretty user interface. And I'm sure you can guess, yes, this is a British temperature reading. Hopefully that's starting to make sense. Let's go through another example, but this time a little bit more hands-on. Instead of the weather, the app we want to connect to this time is something I'm sure you're all familiar with, YouTube. And this time we're going to connect not from our mobile app, but from our computer. So this is my computer. Most applications that have an API will also have documentation explaining how it works, the available features, etc. And YouTube is no different. If you go to developers.google.com/YouTube/v3, this is what you will see. This site tells us all you need to know about YouTube APIs. If we click on Guides at the top, we can see all of the how-to guides. The first one we see is the overview. This tells us exactly what we need to do to get started. we need a Google account to access the Google API console. We also need to start a project to obtain some credentials. Now, this isn't a tutorial on YouTube APIs specifically, so if you're going to try this yourself, have a read through this guide and it should take you through the steps you need. The next page is Reference. This is where we can find all of the available API information that YouTube has made available to us. To show you an example, I'm going to choose the channel resource on the left. I'm going to select List because I want to request some information about a YouTube channel. Once we click on List, we're going to see a huge amount of very useful information. We can see some common use cases, the HTTP request itself, and also all of the available parameters of very useful information. We can see some common use cases, the HTTP.
So like, where does that get written at? The HTTP request. Where do you write HTTP requests? Where do you write WRITE HTTP requests? It's IBM, so they're gonna make it more complicated than it needs to be. HTTP client. Left of YouTube. HTTP requests. Maybe this guy has an answer.
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm a developer and I'm here to teach you about HTTP requests. You've worked with HTTP all the time when accessing a site, loading its content, and interacting with its content. In this video, you'll learn about the different processes that take place to make these actions on the internet work smoothly. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol and is used to structure requests and responses over the internet. The transfer of resources happens using TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. In viewing web pages, TCP manages the channels between your browser and the server, in this case, Codecademy.com. TCP is used to manage many types of internet connections in which one computer or device wants to send something to another. HTTP is the command language that the devices on both sides of the connection must follow in order to communicate. When you type an address such as Codecademy.com into your browser, you are commanding it to open a TCP channel to the server that responds to that URL. In this situation, your browser, which is making the request, is called the client. The URL you are requesting is the address that belongs to the server. Once the TCP connection is established, the client sends an HTTP GET request to the server to retrieve the web page it should display. After the server has sent the response, it closes the TCP connection. GET requests are one kind of HTTP method a client can call. They retrieve an existing resource from a server. Post request
So, okay, so that's in the browser like that. I mean, that's like a...
situation, your connection, posting resource. Check out the latest course offerings from Codecademy.com. After you type the URL into your browser will extract the HTTP part and rename and it knows the destination using the which contains and the protocol HTTP version is your browser. Server might one point the status number of 200 and OK. You need this information after requested by the or if the page was removed. Using this approach, HTTP secure, now look at HTTP.
HTTP request itself, and also all of the available parameters that we can use. Over here on the right, we have a very handy tool. This tool allows us to try the API out. Time is explaining our overview. Available API info of very useful information. We can equal. Google provides incredible.
Like, here, this part. So, I don't know. We'll see.
An application called Postman. Postman is an API client that allows us to send API requests and receive responses in a nice, easy to understand format. As you can see, I have already gone ahead and entered our API request here. The first part of the API request is the channel resource.
Postman?
Then we have to display the parameters in a nice,
You have to
easy
get an application
format.
to do this?
This tells the API. The next parameter is ID. Key link and overwhelm yourself. Let's go almost straight away. We receive a response back from the unit, which predicts that 34,066 and the data and display you report. Here we can out just got fix this. This could build with YouTube. Press to find guys.
I wonder if I still have that on. GitHub. It was something like the this thing. Well, this could be one of them. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. See, fetch quote. So this is me. See, I didn't use a get here. I used a fetch. And so get is for, I mean, was that not an API request? Fetch this, then resolve it to JSON, and then grab certain pieces of that JSON and put them in variables. But how does get play into this? That's what I don't understand. So fetch, does fetch have inside of it a get? Maybe I need to look up fetch now. What am I looking up? Hold on. Does fetch contain a get request? To make a simple get request with fetch, you need to pass in the URL endpoint as an argument. Okay. So using fetch, I'd rather just like look at fetch now. Fetch.
Discover.
Fetch better have my money.
Kill yourself.
Every single app requires to get data from somewhere and send data to somewhere. This back and forth is what makes the web so powerful. And the way we do that natively in JavaScript is the almighty, all-powerful Fetch API. Well, it's one of the ways, but we'll get to that. This is episode 14 of 20 things JavaScript developers should know, but probably don't. This is episode 14. Fetch better have my data.
Here I'm using a get.
Fetch is a function built into JavaScript that you can call to send requests to an API, just like these. History of fetch and XHR and some of the other boring stuff at the end of the video. Okay, so how does fetch know where to get the data from if I call the function? You pass the URL into the function, and that's how fetch knows where to go, where the request is going. You could use any API that you want as long as it's publicly accessible. So just Google free public APIs and you'll get a ton. I'll also put a bunch of links in the description below of the ones that I use. Fetch will then return a response object back to you. So keep this model in mind, that's the basic mechanism. Fetch a request and receive a response. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. One dog looks this way, the other dog looks the other way. Okay, that's a little bit oversimplified. The truth is, fetch needs more than just the URL. It actually takes a request object and returns also a response object. Both of these objects have their own properties and methods, which I'll get to in a minute. So if fetch needs more than just the URL, how come this works? How can I just pass in
Did
this?
Fetch say that again?
Fetch needs more than just the URL. How come this works? How can I just pass in a string for the URL? When you do this, JavaScript actually creates a request object for you behind the scenes and sets its URL to the string that you passed into fetch. Kind of like this. But it also does a few other things. The same way the request needs a URL, it also needs to know what is the method of the request, for example.
Ah, see? Okay. It is built into it. So, if I'm accessing an API, if I'm making an API request, wait, hold on. If I'm trying to the get request is inside of fetch. Fetch API. I mean, okay. Maybe I should put that under here. No, that's response, okay. Response. So So you would use, oh, whatever. I'm still kind of confused on get. Using get. This is all I really wanted to know for now about that. What happened to my...
Use to send and receive significant amount.
My other video disappeared. Okay, well, I think I finished it. So, you have API requests. You have the HTTP methods. It just means application talking to application. Applications are basically just code running on a server. And the API Fetch is an example of an API. I still want to know more. API explained. There's all these ads. I'd rather have somebody else tell me, ask, or explain it to me.
In today's video, I'm going to be talking about what an API is, both in general and related specifically to web development. Let's get started now. To get started, API stands for Application Programming Interface, which is just a fancy way of saying what one application exposes to another. That is the API. Let's take an example of a restaurant to describe how an API works in non-technical terms. So when you go to a restaurant, you don't go directly up to the chef and tell him what you want to order. You need to look at the menu and order something off of the menu, because the menu tells you what the restaurant offers. That is their API, this menu. The API essentially tells you what that certain application is giving to you and the things that you can use from that application. So you go to the restaurant and you order something off of that menu. Then, after you order something from that menu, you tell them what you want. That restaurant is going to give you whatever you ordered off of that menu. They're going to give you back data. So when you access an API, that API, you're going to send it what you want, and then it'll send you back information based on what you wanted. But if you go to this restaurant, for example, a steak restaurant, and you try to order a peanut butter jelly sandwich, they're going to throw an error at you. They're going to tell you, we don't serve peanut, because they only it's not going to expose to you the database with all the user's information and passwords. They're only going to expose to you the login and sign up pages and not the actual database itself. This makes that website secure because they're only exposing the parts that they want to. Some of the most common forms of APIs that you'll run into as a developer are going to be REST APIs on the web and library APIs from code that you pull into your project. Let's first talk about these web APIs, which are going to be most likely REST APIs. These APIs expose different endpoints, also known as URLs, which you can access to get certain data from that API. You can also access these endpoints in order to modify data on these servers, but it only is what the application actually exposes to you and wants to let you modify. For example, you may be able to update a user through a REST API, but they're not going to let you update the password. They're only going to let you update the name and the email, for example. You also will be able to get users from this API, but they're not going to.
I want to see like an actual example illustration type of shit. This is how APIs are used. This is how, like, I see the fetch thing.
This course is an excellent introduction to APIs for beginners. This is an updated version of what is already one of the most popular API courses on the internet. Craig Dennis is back as the instructor, and in my opinion, he is one of the best developer educators out there.
Hello, I'm Craig, and I'm a developer. In this course, we're going to be exploring a term that you've probably heard quite a bit. That term is API, or Application Programming Interface. In addition to being able to recite what it stands for, when you complete this course, you'll be able to discuss what an API does, you'll understand why they exist, and you'll be able to list the many benefits that they provide. You'll even get some hands-on experience using a few popular web APIs, which will give you a taste of what all this excitement is about. We'll be starting from the very beginning, so there really isn't too much I'm going to be expecting you to know before starting this course. I would like to request you have a trusted experience with coding and a wee bit of knowledge about the web. If you've written any program at all, even the typical first program, you know the one where you write the words, "Hello world"? If you've done that in any programming language, you'll pretty much be ready for this course. It will be helpful if you have a basic understanding of how the web works, web servers and browsers, but don't sweat, we'll touch on that. Now, if you haven't met these requirements, please check the notes attached to this video for where to get started with some beginning web and programming concepts. That reminds me, you should take some time to get used to your learning environment. The notes that I just discussed are attached to this video, and I'll also drop more information into that section to keep you updated on what might have changed from my right now to your right now. And I'll do my best to remind you to look in there when there's something I think you just have to see. But you really should get in the habit of checking that area out. There'll be tons of juicy information there. You might be getting a real bad case of deja vu right now. This is a refresh of a course from 2019, which these days seems like about 30 years ago or something. If you saw that version, welcome back. Technology is constantly evolving, and just upgrading the notes wasn't cutting it, so this is version 2. Thanks for all the feedback, by the way. A lot of yours and your fellow learners' suggestions are implemented in this new, updated version. All that to say, we got you. These videos have captions, so if you feel like you might benefit from having those on, please use them. This space is all yours. If you want me to speak slower, please use the speed controllers to slow me down. And if I'm taking a long time, speed me up. I make a pretty good trip on it. And last, but certainly not least, take advantage of the fact that you are in a video-based course. If you need me to repeat myself, use the video control to rewind me. If you feel like you need to take a break to let something sink in, by all means, I remind you quite a bit to take breaks and encourage you. First, I'd like to take some time up front here on the what and the why of APIs. We'll go and learn how to explore 2 existing ones. We'll get familiar with several handy tools that you can use to interact with web-based APIs. We'll use those tools to hit an external web API to send actual text messages. And we'll get some interesting data back from a streaming music service API. Once we get some practice using APIs, we'll use them in a web application that you'll actually publish. The application that we're going to be building is going to receive user-submitted photos via a text message, and then we'll use an API to display a collection of all these photos. And you get to come up with the prompt. Send me the latest photo on your phone. Dog pics, please. What's for dinner? Whatever you want. Using APIs in this course, we won't be writing our own. While you most likely are going to end up learning some best practices in API design, we won't be covering that specifically. There are many great courses available that show the creation thought process. And I've linked to some of my faves in the notes attached to this video.
My faves.
In my opinion, the best way to start learning about any acronym is to focus on each individual letter. For API, I think we should start on that last character, the I, interface. Let's talk a bit about the interfaces that you've seen already. Interfaces are all around us. For instance, this radio here, it has a familiar interface. The interface allows me to do things like change the volume, change the station, I can turn it off and on. I literally have no idea how anything inside this thing works. But still, the interface allows me to control the way that it works through the options that are exposed. And that's pretty great, isn't it? The magic that is happening is completely abstracted away from me.